Discovery.
3, 2, 1, 0, 0. Liftoff. Americans return to space as Discovery clears the tower.
Welcome to the Podcast Discovery Show, the podcast that's about other podcasts, where every single week we have a book club style discussion about a podcast. And at the end of the episode, we're going to have a brand new recommendation. And next week, we're going to talk about that one. I'm Kirk.
I'm Zach.
And I'm Matt.
And this week we are talking about Mysterious Universe. This show, from their blurb, it brings you the latest news and podcasts covering the strange, extraordinary, weird, wonderful, and everything in between. We strive to maintain a balance of healthy skepticism and entertainment while never losing our sense of humor. And they have a wide variety of types of topics here. And I think that we've talked about it before, but I'll say it again. I would say that I'm skeptical about anything paranormal, but I am optimistic, if that makes sense. I want it to be true. And so if they find things that they're like, okay, we're going to try and throw out some actual things that could be seen as evidence or potentially weird things to look at, that's one thing. But just saying like I don't like the Bigfoot Hunter show on Discovery Channel or anything like that. But I like the idea that there could be mysterious things happening in the universe. I enjoy that premise in general. And so I thought it was time for another one of these. And actually, they have a ton of episodes about UFOs and about aliens and about people disappearing and about all this stuff. But I chose one that is not supernatural at all. Nope. It's called Fenn Hunters, and it is about a treasure hunt, a very famous treasure hunt.
Yeah, and so I looked a little bit into the podcast as well, and they have a little blurb as well about the podcast in particular, because they're kind of like multimedia now, where they have, the podcast, they have a really in-depth website with a blog and all these other things. But their podcast has been around since 2006. It says, and it's grown to a huge following with millions of downloads from around the world with high production values and hosts' refreshing approach. The podcast immediately stood out from its competitors, and it did. I mean, it's a great podcast, and the hosts are Aaron Wright and Benjamin Grundy, and they said they were from Australia. They talked about being from Australia, and maybe it's just because they had accents, but it reminded me a lot of It's Not Rocket Surgery, because there was multiple people talking about different topics, and it made me think of our friends over there.
Yeah, I could see that for sure. But yeah, so this episode is about Forrest Fenn, who was a rich guy who decided to, through a crazy series of events, hide a treasure, and then the crazy world that developed around this treasure. And they break down some of this stuff. What did you guys think of this one?
Pretty great. What a story. No.
An amazing story. An amazing story. I think that, it may sound morbid. Okay, it's morbid, but the reason that he wanted to do it was just so epic.
It was. It really was awesome.
And they talked about it. Like it's conflicting. They're like, it's kind of messed up because, okay, let's give context. If you didn't listen to the podcast, first of all, stop this podcast, go listen to it, then come back. But if you haven't, what Forrest Fenn did was in 1988. So this is literally the year I was born. He was diagnosed with cancer. They said he wasn't going to, I forget how long they said he was going to live, but it wasn't very long.
Chance, yeah, 20% chance that he'd die with like ASAP.
Yeah. So he had a history where his father had committed suicide when he had cancer. He just took a bunch of sleeping pills and had made the decision and basically said, I want to be in control of when I go, blah, blah, blah. Very morbid, sad, and everything. But he also kind of understood that now, having been diagnosed with a disease that was going to kill him. And so he made this elaborate plan to basically do almost the same thing, except for he was going to bury this treasure in the middle of somewhere, and he was going to then commit suicide there, which that's the part that's like, okay, that's weird. So you're going to find this guy's dead body.
Honestly, still kind of awesome.
And
it's crazy.
Well, even if you go before that, he was an art antique dealer. So he had just insane,
so much stuff.
And the backstory of him just being like, I want to become an antiquities art dealer. And then like being like, okay, now you are, Forrest Fenn. And now you have cancer.
Yeah, I guess that there's no one really stopping anybody from doing that. Just nobody really thinks that to themselves. I want to deal in antiquities to Robert Redford. But no, he had like huge celebrity clients. And honestly, even the idea that he would like commit suicide at the treasure, that kind of makes it even creepier. It's like you find the treasure, but there's a body next to it.
Like it's like our conversations of like, hey, if I'm going to go out, I want to be a Viking funeral, or, I want to like be turned into a firework. Just like, it's like an epic way to go, man. Like,
I mean,
crazy.
I would definitely rather like do whatever he was talking about than do a Viking funeral while alive.
Well,
that's just like setting yourself on fire on a boat.
I mean, to go even further, it would be way cooler to be a fucking firework.
Yeah, that way it gets a whole new context when you're literally shooting yourself in the sky and blowing up while alive.
Is that a thing that people do?
No, we were talking about being cremated and turned into a firework.
We talked about what we'd like to do with our burials, not like with our suicides.
Well, no, I mean, no. But is that a thing that people do, is get cremated and put in fireworks?
I don't know if anyone's ever. I bet someone's done it, but we were just talking about it as one of the stupid things.
Oh my God.
We were just BSing it at some point, but
I just wrote it down on favorite way to die.
We listened to a podcast a long time ago where you can get your ashes pressed into vinyl on like your favorite vinyl. And you are part of the vinyl, and you are the crackles.
You are the crackles. No, and I mean the thing they said to do is also to like include your voice. If you could get a recording, then you can literally like have like this weird vinyl memory of someone that's like, instead of an urn, you have a vinyl that no one should touch.
Yeah. Well, sorry.
Anyways, we got a little off track here.
I'm sorry,
but honestly, I still think that this whole idea is badass. Like, okay, and this was a long time ago. He was facing his mortality. He's like, you know what I want to do? I'm going to hide a freaking treasure. I'm going to fill a box with gold and all kinds of weird international things, and I'm going to hide it. And I'm going to make people want to find it.
I mean, sounds really cool, but only if you have those things.
True. Yeah, I mean, we could do it too. Honestly, that's the thing I was thinking about this whole time. You would get through context of visiting him. They really did a great job in this episode of exploring a lot of different angles of this. But people, there were skeptics throughout the whole time. They were saying, how do we even know this is a real treasure? How do we know there's anything in this box because at one point there's hundreds of thousands of people looking for it. And so what if the whole thing is nothing? There's nothing there. And he's got everybody hyped. And you could still do that. You would have to do a little flash and mirror. But if you were dedicated enough, you could make people hyped enough to go looking for a treasure that is nothing. And so that's why they were questioning it. But when you went to his house, he was an antiquities dealer. His house was immaculate and had these crazy like areas with just their saber-toothed tiger teeth laying around and like medieval weaponry, and just you got the sense that he probably had treasure stuff that he could put in a treasure.
Yeah. He had treasure to put in treasure. I agree.
And that's a key. You got to have the treasure to make a treasure.
I've got some old dirty socks, and
that's not a treasure then.
I got a microphone.
I'd like have tech. There'd be tech in my treasure thing.
Exactly. I've got tech that you can find that's been it'll be obsolete by the time you find it.
Like, well, here's your treasure.
I drew a picture when I was a kid. I've still got that around here. I'll put that in there.
Here's your treasure. I hope you were a podcaster.
Here's a jar of pickles.
There's still $4 left on that Starbucks gift card.
Exactly.
That's what I've got to offer.
Oh God!
But it's an insane story how it started. But then he doesn't die, and so I didn't know how recent this went to.
Yeah.
Like,
no, this just ended. So it ends up being
ended.
It ends up being like a 40-year saga of him. Because for the first, what did they say? 10, 20 years, he would just like have house parties and show people, like, you want to see my treasure chest? And then they go in there and he'd be like, it's full of goodies. And he would keep it in like a locked safe. He would just constantly be adding more treasure to the treasure chest.
Spoiler alert, because we're going to talk about this on Discover Weekly. It ended in June of 2020, last year. June of last year is when it was found.
After hundreds of thousands of people wandered around, like literally
and people died.
And like,
God.
that was the part where it's like, okay, yeah, I could see why everyone would be kind of pissed off at this because, and I mean, I do think that he kind of had a point because as people were dying and there was, what did they talked about 3 or 4 of them where it was just people. Normally it was people that would go like, I'm going to go traverse this river while it's frozen. And then they would fall in the river and it ended badly. And he basically said, like, look, I'm not responsible for people not knowing how to be in the woods. I told them it wasn't anywhere dangerous.
I did think it was funny that the host of the show referenced that the kind of people that really go deep into a treasure hunt like this are usually people that sit in front of their computer most of the time and aren't usually very well equipped for going in the wilderness for long periods of time and insane conditions. And it's probably pretty true with the demographic of people that were really into this.
It just reminded me of like Lemmings or something. It was like,
yeah,
when they started going back to back, I was just like, Jesus.
Yeah, kind of like creating like a panic and they're all just kind of following the flow of the herd.
Yeah, because it'll, he'd have a big press release and he'd be like, it's nowhere dangerous. It's not even near water. I'm 80 and I hit it. Like, I'm not doing something dangerous. And no, like, then right after it would be like, maybe it's on the top of this mountain. It's like, no.
Here's the best thing, though. It's maybe my favorite part of this whole thing. Even though someone has found it, I guarantee they don't believe it's real. I guarantee they think that this is all smoke and mirrors. They think that this is something else. Either that or like he's in on it or something. It's something so interesting about like how our brains work. If you really want to believe something, you can like delude yourself into it. And so they won't want to believe.
Gold fever, the whole like hearing and learning. And I used to watch those gold shows on Discovery Channel where they're looking for, and people act freaking weird when it comes to like something that's super valuable that you're working hard to find. It just brings out like this weird dark part of humanity. And you hit it right on the head. There's a lot of people that don't believe that it was found, people that think that he never hit it. There's multiple lawsuits that happened when it was found. It's so messed up.
Who are they suing?
Everybody.
There's like everybody who found it.
We'll talk about it in Discovery Weekly, because it's crazy.
I'm crazy curious. No,
it's
but
so stupid.
That's one of the things I really liked about this show is they get into all that stuff. They talk about such interesting like facets of what was happening here because it's so weird how people were reacting to this. And they talked about kind of like the amount of sunk costs that some of these people had. People ruined their lives. People went literally bankrupt and spent years and tons of money searching for this thing.
But some of them built their entire lives around it, which is even weirder. Now they met their now spouse other. And they're married, hunting for the treasure. Like what? And then that secret society that was, or not secret society, but this is the group of people that were meeting.
The weird half cult.
Yeah. And then the guy going like
sacrifice.
It was Captain America painted gold. That's the dumbest.
So insane. Part. So weird. And then when they were describing that guy showing him the map or whatever.
where he thought everything was poop related.
And he's like, okay, so it goes, it's here. And he's showing him his plan. And then he's like, looks at him real weird and is like, if you steal my plan, I'll kill you or whatever. And he's like, no. And he's like, okay, cool. And
like, Don't tell me your plan if you're going to kill me if I
That's
use
what
it.
they said.
Or like, what if
that.
I accidentally find it and you were completely wrong? Are you still going to kill me?
Yes. Kill you or sue you. It's your choice, really. But no,
it's also very much reminded me. I don't know if you guys have ever read Ready Player One. This is Ready Player One. This is exactly. I actually want to now like research as to whether the author of Ready Player One was inspired by this, because it's all about this dude that had this giant company. Basically, let's say Jeff Bezos died, and he did this giant. It was like a mix between this and Willy Wonka, where it's like if you find the treasure, you get the company, and it was very much like this, where it's all cryptic. There was poems, and there was like his favorite like 80s nostalgia stuff. But it reminded me a lot of this story. And I loved that book because of just the story and, treasure hunt. It is exciting. Just even the thought of a treasure hunt seems cool.
Oh, no, don't get me wrong. There is some part of me that like, if I didn't think it was, well, I mean, now that I know it's found, it's obviously pointless.
Is
it
found though? I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, there is that. Like, I'm sure there's going to be people still looking for it, but like, okay. If I could like know for sure there was a treasure and I could not ruin my entire life to go look for it, that seems fun to go find a treasure.
You and everyone. Jeez.
Yeah.
If it
That's
doesn't
what I'm saying.
ruin
It's
your
fun.
life. No, I could do it if I knew it was in a 2-mile radius.
So this is what I've thought. I've thought of this in the past. It's like, I ain't got $1 million to hide in treasure chest, but if I could find a way to make a treasure hunt where you get, okay, this is how many people have to buy in to make it $1 million, thing. But if everyone's putting $100 in, but you get a chance with that $100 to get the, your own set of clues. There's a lot of logistics that have to be worked out.
Yes, and then there's islanders.
So cool.
They have torches. And then there's one guy that
I
puts
think
out
of
the
nowadays
torches.
is like, if you have to buy into it and you get the clues, first thing's going to happen is you're going to put it on the internet and then everybody has access to the clues. That's the thing. But anyway, I think it would be so cool because you could make a treasure hunt and people would buy into it. And if you didn't scam them, which
you have to incorporate some Hunger Games is all you have to do. You have to like lock them on an island. Like the people that know the clues have to be locked somewhere.
I still want to do this. I need to get a mastermind to help me do this.
Hey, geocaching is kind of this thing, but less lucrative, I suppose.
You just find somebody put their Beanie Baby in a box in a tree and you can go find that with geocaching. It's kind of like this, but different.
Yeah.
But people still really like it.
It's a little bit more fun than geocaching.
No, but all of it I think is just fun. There's something fun about finding something that you're exploring.
I mean, that's the whole, you know what I did today all day was I was thrifting. I was thrifting all day. It's the idea of finding a really cool thing. Like,
did you find any really cool things?
Not really. I was looking for a desk. I ended up buying one at Big Lots, but but I was at one and I saw they had the full first season of True Detective, and I don't have HBO, so I was like, oh, cool. I'm like,
No, you are right though. It's really fun to go thrift shopping because you look and sometimes you'll find something cool. You'll go for it.
Most of the times you don't, but this is, dude, I was just reading about, oh my God, these two different type of dopamine responses in our brains where it's social media. If everything you posted was a hit, like everybody retweeted it, everybody liked it, the dopamine that you get from receiving that praise leaves quicker than the dopamine you get from failing almost 100% of the time and then getting one thing. Because that one thing, they did all these studies, and that if you fail all the time and then you get one hit, you're going to be more likely to keep trying to get that hit because it can happen, or like that the failures lead to the success. But if you just success,
it's like the
you're
whole
less
concept
likely
of like making it, keeping something sacred so it's special. You don't go to Disney every weekend because then you don't want to ever go to Disney. It's not a special thing anymore. You don't want to go to the beach. You don't want to live on the beach because then going to the beach is, you take it for granted.
100%.
Same,
But with the rats, with the ones that failed most of the time and succeeded, they would die from exhaustion from pushing these levers.
geez.
What?
Yeah. Like they stopped eating, they stopped drinking. It was basically addiction, gambling addiction, the whole thing. And it's
That
like
is crazy.
holy shit. I know. So it's like when I was listening to that, this was all going through my brain. I was like, damn, these people aren't crazy. They're just more likely to be crazy. Because
they even
failed
mentioned
a lot.
Yeah, they even mentioned that idea of a lot of them had something to prove in their life. A lot of them felt like they had failed some major way in their life and were trying to like recover that.
Yeah, that's why I went thrifting today.
And you found True Detective, and everything
that's why we haven't
is
quit
better.
the podcast yet. It's because we're hoping eventually to hit it and get that dopamine rush.
We'll get it one day, guys.
We'll get it one day. We'll die trying, but we're going to get it one day.
I haven't drank in a long time. Very thirsty. But it's super interesting, the psychology behind all this stuff. But that said, I also want to say I really like their accents.
Yeah, me too. Me too. Every time we get an Aussie show, we love it.
Whoa, so good.
That's just very relaxing. But yeah, overall, great show. They have a ton of stuff. As with every episode, we will tell you again, they have a ton of stuff we cannot bring up because it's like an hour and a half long. We don't want to talk about their like everything they said. You should go check it out. It's a really fun show. And if you're into, what do they call it? Anything paranormal, UFO type things, or there's some that are like trying to explain like religious experiences. There's a whole wide world of different types of topics they have here. I just chose this one because we had talked about Fenn Hunters before, barely. We just talked about, there's a huge treasure. Everybody's going crazy over it.
Mm-hmm.
And so this was exactly the deep dive I was hoping it would be, honestly. I saw this one. I was like, well, I hope it's going to like kind of scratch that itch and like I'll learn more about the whole thing. And it really was great for that.
And I'll say something because a lot of podcasts have tried to do this, and I've never really taken the bait or even felt like I wanted to. But this podcast has like a premium version where they continue the episode that you're already listening to. Like they just continue recording. They're like, all right, free listeners, thank you so much for coming by. Now we're going to basically they're going to do their plus version. And that's where they were going to talk about who actually got the treasure. And I wanted to hear them present it so bad. And then they talked about psi experience and psi encounters. And they teased that a little bit. And I wanted to talk about or learn about that as well. Cause that's fascinating to me, what they were talking about, at least, where like you get this like pit in your stomach, like, I feel like I need to call my grandma. I feel like, something I'm worried about her. So it doesn't feel bad. And then you find out that something bad happened to her and you had this like feeling like, and there's no explanation as to why. And, they were going to talk about that. And that seems fascinating. And I want to know what people say that is, or if there's any science behind it or what. I want to know. But that's on the plus version, guys.
Yeah, they have the best. You should go ahead and subscribe to the plus version because they stop like right before the last part of it. And you're like, oh my God, my brain.
They give you a lot of content.
Yeah,
like it wasn't like it was like 20 minutes and then it was over. They gave you an hour and 15 minutes this episode was, something like that. But then they were going to talk about those other things.
Just one little tidbit saved for the end.
Also, I did want to hear the story about the midget ninja.
They talked about it so many times and they never actually got to it. Well, they paraphrased it.
that I don't know. It sounded amazing.
That assassinated a shogun by hiding in a latrine, stabbing him in the butt. It's like you can't just say that in the first 2 minutes of the show and then never explain it.
I want to hear the story. This ninja's life story. That's got to be crazy. I've not made a movie about that yet.
Also,
sounds amazing.
Didn't know you could die from getting stabbed in the butt.
I mean, I guess how many times do you get stabbed might have something to do with it.
I guess
how deeply or
I'm picturing a
we don't need
dagger.
to talk about
we'll stop there, everyone. But so
we're going to take a page off of their book and our not premium version, just our other show, the Discovery Weekly, we're going to talk about who actually found the treasure chest. Because there is someone that found it last year. Woo. And there's actually a lot of context to it that I'm excited to talk about.
Hope it's me.
He doesn't even know if it's him or not. I'm doubtful. But I have a recommendation for next week. I heard about a show called What Was That Like? Where it's all firsthand stories. So it's people sharing their experience firsthand, interview style. A lot of them are extremely intense, but I saw one that stuck out to me and I needed to know more. The one I'm going to recommend is episode 47. William Hung was on American Idol. This is the firsthand account of William Hung's experience being on American Idol and becoming like essentially a viral star in the earliest iterations of this. And so we're gonna find out more about him from himself. So we'll do that next week. It's What Was That Like? William Hung was on American Idol.
She bangs.
Thanks for listening, and remember,
there's always more to discover.
This was a podcast from the Podfix Network. You can check out more shows like it at podfixnetwork.com.